Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the new Kill Team FAQ that's just dropped today. This is July 2023, the 10th of July. So let's get straight into it. The core rules changes, some minor changes here, 3 changes. So the first one is referring to close quarters. So there was already an FAQ, a little bit of a fudge, saying that if you can set up outside your drop zone, like Sneaky Git for the Commandos or Dimensional Translocation for Heretic's Circle, in close quarters you can't do that. Instead, you use the tactical ploy once per battle to allow you to do a free normal move or operate hatch. And this is just clearing up the timing of that. It happens at the end of the scouting step. That's when I assumed it would happen, but good clarification. Well done, thank you. Something about Ashes of Faith and Dominance and Conspirator and Ruse cards. I really want to play the Ashes of Faith campaign, but I haven't yet, so I don't really grok what this is. But there you go. And then we had a question and answer here. Can you reroll a dice you've already retained? For example, if I retain a defense dice as a successful normal save as a result of cover, can I reroll it later? No. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Part of me wonders if, there's more and more teams that are altering roles, like Kazakin alter roles, and Novitiates can alter roles, and maybe there's something happening after you've retained a dice, and then you go, oh, actually now it transpires I want to fish for a crit for some reason, and can I spend a reroll doing that? But it's very niche. Extremely, and in fact I can't, because the Kazakin player or Sisters player has to... Well, no, But all the time I played Novitiates, for Novitiates, you can see the defense rolls before you decide to use an act of faith, can you? Maybe? I don't know. I'm sure there's a more topical thing that spawned this question and answer. And I'm going to say this a few times today. If you understand the kind of razor's edge competitive rules lawyering question that's led to that particular FAQ, let me know in the comments at the bottom. It's good for a laugh, isn't it? Right, Chaos Cultists. Again, it's all minor changes. So the first one is it will revert back to its original devotee miniature and data card after the battle to change for narrative play. Apparently very important for narrative play. Never really played narrative play, so I don't fully understand. The second change is changed to put once in each in front of the mutation ability. This is one of those really... Was someone trying to claim that you could mutate more than one time per strategy phase using this ability? That person is taking the mickey, So I'm glad I'm glad they've made the change. I'm sad they needed to make the change. Surely people should just play. It's obvious that that's what it meant, right? A question about something else here. So if your mutant evolves into, your devotee evolves into a mutant, do you still then go on to activate a second devotee because devotees have GA2? Yes, you do. This one is a little less obvious, so I can see that they needed to clarify that. It's a good clarification, I guess. And then finally, if I want to mutate a friendly operative at the end of a combat in which a friendly devotee operative inflicted damage and was not incapacitated, must it be that operative that mutates, or can it be any friendly operative? It must be that operative that mutates, which I would have thought was very obvious. The fact that this is a question is also kind of makes me despair. There's a lot of that in this FAQ. There's not really... I mean, as you would expect from an FAQ and an errata, right? There's not that much really in the way of material changes to the way you play in the game. There's just a lot of things that are... I'm a little bit flabbergasted people had to ask these questions for a lot of this, but there you go. So yes, when your devotee inflicts damage and isn't incapacitated, it's that devotee that has to evolve. Alright? Inquisitorial Agents. So, first and second errata says that other than trooper operatives, the ancillary support can only include each operative above once. And for Vet Guard, other than trooper veteran operatives, this ancillary support can only include each operative above once. Briefly got excited here that this was somehow a material change, limiting those teams to only one gunner. So you're going to take one gunner with the Kazakin, or one gunner with the Scions, or one gunner with the Vet Guard. It's not that. It's simply that they forgot to say that you can only include each operative once. So, yeah, not actually a change at all to anyone that was playing reasonably properly. It's interesting. So initially we got very confused because if you look in fact, you can look at this page 34 in Ashes of Faith. It's a great example of this. If you happen to look over at how the breachers are organised, or the exaction squad, their gunners are, the operative's name is Gunner, and then it has like an indented bullet pointed list of guns the gunner can have. Whereas for Scion's, Kazakin, and Vetguard, it's Gunner with plasma gun is the whole name of the gunner. So this doesn't actually make any difference unless people were playing it wrong to begin with, which it's a little bit disappointing from a content creation point of view because I've got less to talk about, but at the same time, like these erratas aren't really meant to make changes, so there's no real change there. Gun Servitor, so I flagged this one up at the time when I was reviewing the datasheets. They can no longer do the cloud computing thing, was the joke that we made. They can no longer basically relieve each other of the penalty to their APL if you put two Gun Servitors next to each other, which was kind of funny and kind of niche if you were doing it that way. I think I would have actually played that contrary to... It's the first errata where I can say, honestly, I would have played it contrary to the way it's been errated. But at the same time, I don't think it's a massive deal, right? Then we get on to questions and answers. So when using the quarry strategic ploy, can I select another quarry each time the one I selected is removed from the kill zone, or can I only select another quarry once? The former, as long as the selected quarry is removed from the kill zone, you continue to select another. I hate to break it to you, this was obviously how it works. I know that there were some people playing it that you could select a quarry and then select the second quarry, and that was it. I think that's wishful thinking. I think maybe that's people who perhaps think that Inquisitor Agents are overpowered and wanted to try and insert a nerf by interpreting the rule in the most conservative way possible. But it was certainly very clear to me, having read the rule, that this was how it was supposed to work. So you can continually have a quarry, a quarry, a quarry, a quarry, a quarry. So I'm not surprised by this at all. When using the Hex Assist operative's chased and unique action, I set a Felgor Ravager operative and set its frenzy ability. Could it then be incapacitated in all manner? Yes. If it has a frenzy token, would it be incapacitated immediately? So that second point is kind of funny. If you chasten a frenzied Felgor, it just drops down dead, which is how I probably would have interpreted the rule as working, but is also such a funny and weird interaction that I guess it does need spelling out in an errata. Okay. And then again, and the internet had largely come to these consensuses, the Kazakin trooper cannot use elite points because elite points is not printed on its card, but the exaction squad can use ruthless efficiency because ruthless efficiency is found on each individual card. Now that might not be the way you think it ought to work, but it's the way it is worked, and it's the way it has always worked, and the way it's the rules say it works. Right, we've covered the lion's share of the FAQs. There are a bunch of smaller things, so we'll go through them really quickly. Warp Coven, so a very minor clarification or nerf for Warp Coven. Essentially, if you use the Schemes of Change tactical ploy, the new tactical ploy you get is unrevealed and has to be revealed at the same time as it normally would on the card. So if you pick one that has, must be revealed on the first turn and it's no longer their first turn, then it just can't do anything. It's a nerf. It's a clarification. I'm sorry, Warp Coven players. They briefly maybe made Schemes of Change halfway useful, and now it isn't again. But it is what it is. Kazakin, the demo trooper. Essentially, if your demo trooper is injured, it doesn't change the ballistic skill of your mine because the mine isn't injured. And this is one of those things where, technically the rules, because of the way mines are abstracted as just being weapons on the profile of the fighter, like, technically, yes, when he's injured, the mine will hit on a 3-up, but obviously it wasn't intended to work that way, so now it doesn't, which is fine. I was obviously already going to play it that way. Maybe someone somewhere else wasn't playing it that way. I don't know. You're in a precisely weird situation where if your demo guy is injured, it will be a -1, but then once he's killed, it goes back hitting on a 2. Obviously, it wasn't the way it was intended to be. No. Hierotex Circle. Are the effects... This one is so weird to me. If you can explain this, let me know in the comments straight away. Are the effects of a Chronomancer's counter-temporal nanamine action a modifier to the operative's movement characteristic? No. It affects the distance they can move, but it does not affect their movement characteristic. Like, I wish there was almost a little commentary to explain to me why this needed to be here. I'm sure there's some shenanigans, and it will be shenanigans. I'm sure there's some shenanigans that this is enabling or putting a stop to or something. But it affects the distance they can move, but does not affect their movement characteristic. It's a very unintuitive sentence to me. Let me know in the comments if you understand what this one's about. Hearthkin Salvager. So the locate... This is a buff. This is actually a buff, I think. The locator used to stop people moving due to the recon scouting option. Now it stops them moving before the battle begins at all. Right? So it is actually a buff. Right? If you played Hearthkin, this is a material change. What moves do we have before the battle begins that aren't scouting options? Well, we just clarified this in the core rules, right? This thing about close quarters confines and sneaky gits and high-tech translocation guys getting to do a normal move at the end of the scouting step. So this guy can turn that off. Okay? Yeah? Good. It's a buff. Exaction Squad. Again, change the relevant part of the sentence to read until the end of the turning point each time a friendly Exaction Squad operative with reference to the dispense justice strategic deploy. Again, very much implied as being what it was supposed to be. I think you had to be trying to interpret that differently, but that's just me. Chaos Cult. If the Chaos Cult operative is arrested and then mutates into another operative, is it still arrested? And again, that's funny and cool, and I wouldn't necessarily have known, because arresting has, depending on how you're arresting things with what weapon, certain things with certain numbers of wounds can't be arrested with certain ways, so it's good to know that you remain arrested even if you wouldn't be eligible to be arrested with the piece of equipment or rule that's arresting you at that moment, which is pretty funny and cool. I don't think it's going to usher in the handcuff meta for the Exaction Squad, but it's just a funny interaction, so I enjoy that FAQ. Felgor Ravagers. Not really sure what's going on with this one. So they've added, this is the old FAQ that explains how when you incapacitate a Felgor's Ravager, you do actually score the various things that you score, and it's added in, so your opponent treats it as being incapacitated brackets instead of when it would be incapacitated normally when it gains a frenzy token. So I guess it's basically just saying that you don't get to incapacitate it once when it's frenzied, and then incapacitate it again when you get rid of the frenzied token, and double up on your pain tokens or blooded tokens or allegories, which I think that's it. If I'm not right, let me know down the bottom. It's just shutting down such niche and obvious shenanigans makes me kind of sad. FAQs always make me kind of sad, because all these things, there must just be a player somewhere that's like, yeah, or technically, or you know, if we frenzy the thing and then we kill it and it's 2 points, and you can't incapacitate a Felgor's Ravager with the strike that you do when you do an implant tac op. Alright? Good. Final thoughts? Oh, I appear not to have had any final thoughts. Well, I'll ad-lib. I usually mostly ad-lib anyway. It's an FAQ. I think most of the stuff in there is really obvious. I think the only thing that's a material change is the buff to the locator, the Hearthkin locator. I guess technically the nerf to the gun servitor not being able to buff itself, like buff each other, is the other one that stands out to me. Everything else, I think, is basically how I was playing the game already. I mean, the core rules change about when you move is, I suppose, a material change as well. I don't play any of those teams that get forward deployers, so... But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the FAQ down below. Have I missed some particularly exciting nuance to the FAQ? Are there any of the rules that you don't quite understand? Am I wrong about the gunners thing? Is it designed to limit Kazakin allies to the Inquisition to one gunner? I don't think I am wrong, but I suppose it's an open question. And yeah, this has been a bonus video. It's quite short. It happens whenever Games Workshop put out news. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back tomorrow for the hobby stream. We always have a sort of hangout and hobby moment on Tuesdays, 7:30 UK time. And yeah, other than that, have a great one. Like the video, subscribe, consider membership, all that sort of stuff. Bye bye. Bye bye bye. Have a great evening. Bye bye.